My name is Arden Vale, 17 years old. The interrogation room hummed like a sick insect, the fluorescent light buzzing in pulses I could count. 4 fast, 1 slow, while stale coffee and metal sat heavy in the air. Detective Rodriguez slid a thick folder across the scarred table, and the sound of paper on steel made my shoulders tighten against the cuffs. Through the narrow window, my stepmom, Diane, paced like she was trapped inside her own reflection, fingers worrying a gold bracelet that matched the ring that used to print itself into my skin. She kept glancing at the hallway camera, as if the lens were a jury she could charm. Your search history shows more daily evidence deletion than most criminals, the detective said, tapping her pen once, twice. Care to explain why you clear your browser every day? Sometimes multiple times per day? I kept my face still. I like privacy. She laughed without warmth. Privacy? Honey, deleted doesn't mean gone. Not when federal forensics are involved. She opened the folder slowly, letting the pages breathe. But here's what's interesting. Your patterns. My stomach dropped like a stone into a dark pond. She fanned printed pages, neon highlights like bruises. How to hide bruises with makeup. What happens if you don't report domestic violence? Can minors file police reports without parents? How long do cigarette burns take to heal? A glance at my sleeves. Home security systems. How to secretly record audio. Where to hide tiny cameras. Voice-activated recording apps. She tilted her head. Busy month, Arden? I counted the lights' buzzes. 4 fast, 1 slow. And then 3 months ago, the searches evolve. A new sheet. How to plant evidence. How to frame someone for domestic violence. Making fake bruises look real. Anonymous tip lines for child abuse. Her eyes pinned me. Here's what I think happened. You were planning something big, and whatever happened to your stepfather wasn't self-defense. I looked up. What happened to my stepfather? You tell me. The detective folded her arms. He's been missing 4 days. His car was found at the bottom of Miller's Pond with enough blood inside to suggest he didn't go for a swim. She slid evidence bags across the table one by one. Your fingerprints on the driver's door handle, fibers from your jacket on the seat, and this, found in your bedroom closet, wrapped in a bloody towel. The gold wedding band with the gaudy diamond glinted through plastic, cruel and familiar. I could feel the cold weight of it, the way it had split my lip last Christmas when I asked too many questions about his late-night visitors, the way it had pressed a crescent into my little brother's cheek when he answered math wrong. From the hallway, Diane's heels paused, then resumed. So here's my question, Arden. The detective's voice softened and sharpened at once. Did you kill Leonard Hartwell? The door burst open. A boy's silhouette, small and vibrating with fear, hovered in the threshold. Caleb, 8 years old, stood on tiptoe to see over the table, both hands clamped around a small recorder that trembled against the metal edge. A fresh bruise bloomed on his left cheek like a fingerprint that wouldn't fade. Kid, you can't be in here, Rodriguez said, standing. Where's your guardian? The lady at the desk said I could see my sister, he said, voice shaking but stubborn. I have something important about Leonard. I swallowed panic. Caleb, don't. Go find Mom. I can't, he whispered. Mom's in the hospital. Uncle Vince brought me. He said I had to tell the truth about what you did. The detective's gaze narrowed. Vincent Morrison brought you? Where is he now? In the parking lot. Caleb's eyes met mine, wide and ancient. He told me what to say, but I can't lie anymore. I'm tired of being scared. He climbed onto the chair, shoes too big, knees knocking the underside of the table. The recorder tapped once, twice. Zara? He faltered, corrected himself with effort. Arden didn't kill Leonard, but I know who did, and I have proof. The light buzzed, 4 fast, 1 slow. I made my breathing match it. Rodriguez's posture changed. Less predator, more surgeon. Okay, sit. We'll do this the right way. Her voice dipped for him alone. What's on the device? Everything. He swallowed. You taught me how. You said if anyone tried to hurt us, I should have proof. January flashed. Caleb in his closet with a bloody nose, whispering, he'd be good, he'd be good. Me showing him the voice memo app with shaking hands, praying he'd never need it. He pressed play. Leonard's voice filled the room, thick with alcohol and certainty. You tell anyone about this, you little brat, and I'll make sure your sister disappears. There are ways to make people go away. A small sob on the recording, Caleb's, cut through me like glass. Please don't hurt Arden. Please, I'll be good. Leonard laughed, a sound colder than the ring in the evidence bag. Your sister's been asking too many questions. Maybe it's time she learned what happens to nosy little girls. The detective's jaw worked once, muscle ticking. When was this? 3 weeks ago, Caleb whispered. His fingers, ink-stained, bitten nails, fast-forwarded with surprising precision. A new file crackled, phone-on-phone hiss, then Leonard again, wary and low. The kids are asking too many questions. The girl, too. I think they're starting to figure it out. Something cold settled behind my ribs. Outside the window, Diane stopped pacing entirely, palm flattened to the glass, like she could press the world backward. Caleb cued another clip, hands shaking so badly he braced the recorder with his wrist. Leonard's voice again, this time closer, the sound of footsteps and a door. We'll use the boys' room for the shipment Thursday. Move it to the warehouse after. A scrape, a laugh that wasn't his, Vince. If the girl interferes, I'll handle Arden. The detective looked at me, really looked, and I watched skepticism fracture into something like fury. Arden, did you know they were involved in drug trafficking? I shook my head once. Pieces clicked into pattern. The backdoor visitors, the off-hours deliveries, the way Leonard had exploded when I touched his office files, his passwords that were always the same because he believed no one would dare try them. Sundays with Uncle Vince, that felt like audits, not dinners. The way Diane praised good providers, while ignoring locks that changed without explanation. Caleb's thumb hovered over another file, his breathing hitched. There's more, he said, quiet as a secret. But you have to promise not to call anyone. Not yet. If Uncle Vince knows, I told... Rodriguez raised a palm, not to silence him, but to steady the air. I hear you. We do this carefully. The recorder's red light glowed like a coal. Arden didn't kill Leonard, Caleb said again, as if repetition could build a wall around me. But I know who did. The buzzing light paused, one long, loaded beat, and then resumed. 4 fast, 1 slow. I let the rhythm anchor me as the detective leaned in and Caleb's thumb pressed down. Caleb's small thumb hovered over the play button like he was holding a grenade pin. Detective Rodriguez's voice softened but stayed razor sharp. Go ahead, son. Play it when you're ready. He nodded once, then pressed it. Leonard's voice came first, angry, slurred, and familiar in the worst way. The girl's too curious. She's been snooping again, asking questions she shouldn't. If she opens her mouth, we're done. Then another voice, smoother, colder. Uncle Vince. Relax. If she talks, she dies. I'll handle it. The boy, too, if necessary. I felt the words like ice in my veins. I'd suspected Uncle Vince wasn't just Leonard's drinking buddy, but hearing him, so calm, so calculated, was like watching the mask of family peel away. Detective Rodriguez's pen froze midair. That's Vincent Morrison's voice? Caleb nodded. I'm sure. He comes over every Sunday. He brings me toys, but they're not really presents. I found my voice. Bribes! He nodded again, wiping his nose. He told me never to talk about what I saw in Leonard's office. Rodriguez's jaw tightened. What did you see, Caleb? He hesitated, then pressed another recording. This time the sound of clinking glass and faint music filled the room. Leonard's voice again, quieter now. The new shipment's coming Thursday night. We'll store it in the kids' room until the truck's ready. Uncle Vince chuckled. You're really using your stepson's bedroom as a stash house? Best hiding spot there is, Leonard said. His mom won't notice. She's too busy with yoga and her book club. The woman barely knows what's happening in her own home. I clenched my fists so hard the cuffs bit into my wrists. Diane had called herself a devoted mother just last week at her charity brunch. Rodriguez leaned closer to the recorder. Do they mention what's in the shipment? Caleb shook his head. Not yet, but they said something about white bags. Rodriguez exhaled slowly. Cocaine or fentanyl, most likely. Keep going. The recording jumped. Leonard again, more agitated this time. We've got to make sure the kids don't ruin this. The girl's been getting bold, asking about my trips, my late nights. She even tried to open my office safe last month. Uncle Vince snorted. You're losing your touch, Leonard. You always said control was the key. Leonard laughed bitterly. I've still got control. The girl's scared of me. Always has been. A pause, then Vince's voice turned harder. Maybe not scared enough. If she keeps pushing, we might have to clean house. Clean house? The detective repeated under her breath, pen hovering. The silence that followed felt like the world holding its breath. Rodriguez turned the volume down and looked at me. Did you know about any of this before tonight? I shook my head. No, I knew he was hiding something. Money, women, something. But I never imagined this. I thought if I could prove the abuse, I could get Caleb out. Instead, she said quietly, they were planning to get rid of you both. The recorder clicked again. Caleb had cued another file. His voice was steadier now, like each truth spoken built a wall he could stand behind. Uncle Vince's voice filled the room once more. Thursday. After that, no witnesses. Diane will grieve, of course, but she'll be rich. The insurance money will help her forget. Leonard laughed. You think she won't ask questions? She never has before, Vince said flatly. She's too busy pretending this family's perfect. I felt something snap inside me. Grief, fury, disbelief, all tangled together. My mother, our house, my little brother's toys, all of it just props in their game. Rodriguez's tone shifted. These men weren't just criminals. They were using your home as a cover operation. Caleb stared at the recorder, his fingers shaking. There's one more from the same night, after Uncle Vince left. He pressed play. Leonard's voice was lower now, dangerous. You're lucky, boy. Your sister's the one who'll take the blame when this goes down. People will believe I was the victim. You'll see. Then came the sound of a slap, a choked cry. Caleb's voice, tiny and broken. Please stop. Please, Leonard snarled. Remember who feeds you, who keeps this family standing. I couldn't breathe. The cuffs, the air, the buzzing light, everything pressed in. Rodriguez reached for the recorder but stopped halfway, her voice controlled. Caleb, that was you he hit? He nodded once, tears spilling fast now. He said if I told anyone, he'd hurt Arden worse. The detective exhaled, steady but fierce. All right, here's what's going to happen. I'll take this device into evidence, but I'll listen to every second myself. No one else touches it until I say so. Do you understand? Caleb nodded. Yes, ma'am, but there's still more, from the day Leonard disappeared. That stopped her. You recorded that night? He hesitated. Some of it. I looked at him sharply. Caleb, what do you mean, some of it? He lowered his eyes. I didn't mean to record everything, but I heard yelling. You. Him. Then the sound of something breaking. I got scared. I froze, the sound of something breaking. That was the night everything shattered, literally and otherwise. Rodriguez caught my expression, eyes narrowing with curiosity. Arden, she said softly, what exactly happened that night? The air thickened between us, heavy with secrets. I'll tell you, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. But you need to hear the rest first. Because after those recordings, after what Vince did, nothing about that night was simple self-defense. Rodriguez folded her hands, her face unreadable. Go on. And so, for the first time, I began to relive it. The night our lives stopped being a secret and started becoming evidence. That night started like any other lie we called a family dinner. Diane's laughter floated from the kitchen, too bright, too rehearsed, while Leonard poured whiskey into his coffee mug and called it evening medicine. The air smelled of lemon cleaner and tension. Caleb had gone to a sleepover, or so Diane thought. I was at the diner, working my second shift to save for college applications. I remember the clock striking midnight when I turned onto our street and saw that our driveway wasn't empty. 2 trucks, white, unmarked, sat by the garage. I killed my headlights and parked down the block. My heart was hammering before I even opened the car door. When I slipped in through the back, the house was too quiet. No TV, no music, just muffled voices from upstairs. Male voices. I recognized one. Leonard's. The other. Unfamiliar. I crept up barefoot on the stairs, every step groaning like it wanted to betray me. Then I heard it. Caleb's voice. Small, terrified. Please, I didn't mean to... Followed by the sound of something breaking. My vision tunneled. When I reached his room, the door was half open. Leonard had Caleb pinned against the wall by his shirt, his knuckles smeared with blood. Caleb's little legs were dangling, kicking, but Leonard didn't stop. He was screaming about being followed, about traitors in his own house. Let him go, I yelled. Leonard turned, eyes glassy and wild. You shouldn't be here, Arden. He dropped Caleb, who fell hard and scrambled behind me. I saw the red mark on his cheek, the one that still hadn't faded when I saw him in that interrogation room. Stay away from him, I said. My hands were shaking, but I moved anyway. I grabbed the nearest thing, a baseball bat leaning in the corner by the bookshelf. Caleb's bat. Leonard laughed, but it wasn't humor, it was disbelief. You're really going to hit me with that? Yes, I said, and I did. The sound was sharp, wet, final. The bat hit his back, and he staggered forward, stunned. He tried to turn, but I hit him again, this time in the ribs. He gasped, fell to his knees, and when he looked up, there was no humanity left in his eyes, only shock. He lurched toward me. I swung one last time. The edge of Caleb's desk caught him as he fell, and his head struck the corner with a crack that still echoes in my dreams. Then there was silence. Caleb was crying. I dropped the bat and went to him. "It's okay, buddy. It's okay." But my voice was shaking too hard to sound like safety. Leonard wasn't dead. Not yet. He was breathing, rasping, choking on his own blood. I grabbed my phone to call 911. My hand slipped. I was about to hit call when I heard tires crunching outside. Uncle Vince. I saw him through the window, his outline sharp in the porch light. He must have forgotten something in one of the trucks. "Caleb," I whispered, "hide." But Vince was already in the doorway, looking from Leonard's body to the bat to me. His face didn't change. Not surprise, not panic, just annoyance. "What the hell did you do?" he hissed. "He attacked us," I said. He was going to kill Caleb." Vince stepped closer. "And now you've made everything worse." He crouched beside Leonard, checked his pulse, and let out a low curse. "Still breathing." Then his tone changed, smooth and calculating. "Good. That means we can fix this." "Fix this?" I repeated. He opened one of the white bags lying by the bed, a bag that smelled faintly chemical, almost sweet. Before I could process it, he poured a handful of powder down Leonard's throat. Leonard convulsed, gagged, then went still. Caleb whimpered from behind me. "Stop! You're hurting him." Vince looked up. "He's already hurt, kid." He dusted his hands off, like a man finishing a chore. "Now it's time to make this look believable." He stood, walked to me, and grabbed my arm hard enough to leave a bruise. "Listen carefully, Arden. Here's what's going to happen. Leonard overdosed. Been using for months, right? Tonight he took too much. You found him, panicked. End of story." I stared at him, horrified. "No one's going to believe that." "Oh, they will," he said smoothly, "because your fingerprints are all over the car, your jacket fibers. That bat has his blood on it. I can make sure it's found in your room if you ever decide to get brave." He looked me up and down with that same calm evil that Leonard had used when he hurt us. "No jury will believe a troubled teenage girl with anger issues over a respected businessman and his grieving brother-in-law." My throat tightened. "You planned this." He smiled faintly. "Leonard and I have been planning a lot of things." Then he pulled out his phone and started recording me. "Say it," he ordered. "What?" "Say you found Leonard after he overdosed." I stayed silent. He stepped closer. "Say it, or Caleb pays the price." So I said it, my voice trembling, tears burning hot. I said the words that would later play in that interrogation room, the ones that sounded like guilt but were really survival. Vince turned off the recording, satisfied. "Good girl. Now help me move him." He forced us both to carry Leonard's body, dead weight, literally, to the car. Caleb was sobbing. I couldn't look at him. The night smelled of gasoline and dirt and something worse, finality. When we reached the car, Vince shoved Leonard's body into the driver's seat and told me to touch the handle again. "Fingerprint consistency," he said. "We wouldn't want forensics to get confused." I touched it because I had no choice. Before we left, I slipped my phone into my jacket pocket and hit record. The file ran for nearly an hour, long enough to capture Vince muttering details, issuing threats, explaining how he'd fix everything. He thought I was too broken to think ahead. He was wrong. Later, back in my room, I wrapped Leonard's bloody ring in a towel, the same one they'd find days later, and hid it in my closet, not to protect Vince, but to protect myself. I knew the day would come when I'd need proof. Proof that the truth wasn't simple, that monsters didn't always die when you hit them. Sometimes they lived long enough to clean up the mess. And sometimes they were family. The next 48 hours were a blur of flashing lights, questions, and half-slept hours on a cot that smelled like bleach. Detective Rodriguez barely looked up from her notes as she asked me to repeat, again and again, every second of the night. But after Caleb's recordings, after the tapes, the room felt different. Less like a cage, more like a waiting room for the truth to surface. By the time they brought us home under police escort, the front door was hanging crooked on its hinges. The living room looked ransacked, drawers dumped, cushions slashed, family photos cracked. Upstairs, Caleb's bedroom had been stripped bare. His toys, clothes, even his curtains, gone. The walls were dusted with fine white powder the forensic team was bagging as evidence. Detective Rodriguez stood in the doorway, arms crossed. He came back, she murmured. Vince was looking for something. I stepped over the splintered frame of Caleb's nightstand. The recorder, I said, or anything that could tie him to Leonard. A uniformed officer called from the hallway. Detective, you need to see this. We followed him downstairs. In the kitchen, Diane was slumped at the table, her head resting on folded arms, an empty teacup beside her. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. Mom! I screamed. I reached for her, but Rodriguez held me back as paramedics rushed in. She's alive, one said quickly. Weak pulse, but alive. Looks like an overdose. Rodriguez's face hardened. He drugged her to keep her quiet. As they wheeled Diane out, I caught a glimpse of her face. Pale, empty, unknowing. The woman who'd once told me family is everything hadn't noticed her family burning to ash around her. Rodriguez turned to me. We'll get him, Arden, I promise. Promises were nice, but I wanted results. That night at the station, I told her about the safe in Leonard's office. Behind the law books, I said. Third shelf. There's a false panel. Combinations Caleb's birthday. She raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? Because Leonard was predictable, I said. He used it for everything. His phone passcode, his laptop, even his gym locker. Control freaks often are, she muttered. 2 hours later, Rodriguez returned with a box of evidence. Files, photographs, and a ledger thick with coded transactions. She spread them across the table like a dealer laying out cards in a game only she knew how to win. These aren't just personal records, she said grimly. They're logistics, delivery routes, client names, money transfers. Leonard's real estate business was a front for a trafficking operation. Drugs, weapons, sometimes people. Caleb's face went pale. People? Rodriguez put a hand on his shoulder. You stopped it before it got worse. But I barely heard her. My mind was racing. The trucks, the late-night calls, the way Leonard's phone never rang twice when he was home. It all fit. Then my phone buzzed, an unknown number. You should have kept your mouth shut, little girl. Now you and your brother will pay. The message burned itself into my vision. I showed it to Rodriguez without speaking. Trace it, she ordered. A tech sprinted out of the room. 2 minutes later, he returned. Same area code as Morrison's construction business. Rodriguez grabbed her radio. Protective custody. Now! They moved us to a safe house that night. A bland beige rental on the edge of town with no pictures, no memories, and locks that clicked like gunmetal. The windows were barred from the inside. There was a small garden out back that Caleb wasn't allowed to step into without an escort. He sat on the couch, knees pulled to his chest. He's going to find us, he whispered. No, he won't, I said, but my voice betrayed the tremor I couldn't hide. Caleb glanced up, hopeful. You still have the backups, right? That made me smile despite the fear. 3 copies, different cloud drives, passwords even Vince wouldn't guess. Rodriguez, sitting at the table, looked impressed. You two have done more to build this case than half the detectives I've trained. We didn't have a choice, I said quietly. No one believed us until now. Over the next week, arrests began rolling in. City council members, a judge, 3 police officers, each connected to Leonard's network. The news called it a small-town corruption scandal. For us, it was just Tuesday. Still, Vince was out there. On the 8th day, Rodriguez came by with a grim smile. We have a lead. Caleb perked up. On Uncle Vince? She nodded. Your recorder, the one you used to play those tapes at the station, it has a GPS chip. Arden activated it months ago. I blinked. You found it? We pinged its location 2 hours ago, she said. An abandoned warehouse off Industrial Road. Morrison Construction's old storage site. The name hit like a weight in my stomach. Caleb's voice was barely a whisper. That's where he used to take me. Said it was his office. Rodriguez's jaw set. SWAT's already en route. We move in within the hour. The room went still. Caleb clutched my hand. What if he gets away? I squeezed back. He won't, not this time. Outside, sirens began to wail. Faint at first, then growing, a sound that felt almost holy. For the first time in years, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, this would end before the night did. The night air outside the warehouse was sharp with oil and dust. Rows of broken windows stared down like hollow eyes. Police cars lined the block, red and blue lights flashing against the corrugated steel. I stood behind the barricade with Detective Rodriguez, the cold seeping through my jacket, watching armed officers move like shadows. Stay behind me, Arden, she said. Her tone was calm but clipped, the kind of voice that came from years of training, the kind that meant something big was about to end. Across the lot, a SWAT commander raised a fist, the signal. The sound exploded. Boots, doors slamming, the bark of orders. Police, drop your weapon! For one heart-stopping moment, silence followed. Then a single gunshot echoed through the warehouse. My whole body flinched. 5 endless minutes later, they emerged. 2 officers dragging a man in handcuffs, his face bruised, shirt torn. Vincent Morrison? He didn't look like a monster. He looked ordinary. That was always the trick. When his gaze found me through the flashing lights, his lip curled into a smirk that made my blood run cold. Smart girl, he mouthed, but not smart enough. Rodriguez pulled me back as the officers shoved him into a cruiser. Don't give him your fear, she said quietly. But fear wasn't what I felt. It was rage. Pure, trembling rage that I'd finally survived long enough to see justice breathing. Rodriguez read it aloud in disbelief. He was going to stage a murder-suicide. I nodded, numb. He wanted to make sure we never told anyone. The evidence didn't end there. Tucked under the driver's seat was a small black notebook containing payoffs to city officials, lists of names, and coded entries tying every piece of the operation together. Leonard and Vince hadn't just run drugs. They'd built an empire, and now it was falling. The arrest made headlines the next morning. Teen siblings expose corruption ring after stepfather's murder. The cameras were everywhere. I tried to keep my face down as reporters shouted questions. Were you afraid? Did you kill him in self-defense? Do you feel vindicated? But all I could think about was Caleb holding my hand so tightly that his fingernails dug into my skin. Inside the courthouse, Detective Rodriguez stood beside us during the arraignment. Vince refused to speak except to smirk at every mention of Leonard's name. When the prosecutor described the drugs, the fake IDs, the plan to frame me, Vince tilted his head, almost proud. But when Caleb's recordings were played in open court, something changed. The words of Leonard's threats, the sound of Caleb crying, the cold laughter of Vince plotting accidents. They echoed off the walls, heavier than any gavel. For the first time, Vince looked down. The trial dragged on for 6 months. Every testimony peeled away another layer of the town's illusion. The good men who played golf with judges, the council members who received monthly envelopes from Morrison Construction, the police officers who ignored reports from women like my mom. By the end, 17 people were convicted. Uncle Vince was sentenced to life without parole for Leonard's murder, drug trafficking, conspiracy, and attempted murder of a witness. Leonard's death was officially ruled homicide by overdose, caused by Vince. When the verdict was read, Caleb let out a breath that sounded like the first one he'd taken in years. The judge turned to us, voice heavy but kind. You showed extraordinary bravery, both of you. Most adults wouldn't have survived what you endured, let alone helped bring justice to others. Diane, our mother, wasn't in the courtroom that day. She was still recovering. The fentanyl Vince had given her left her with memory gaps, moments that slipped away like fog. But when I visited her in the hospital afterward, she was sitting by the window, staring at the sky. I should have seen it, she said softly, not looking at me. Leonard, Vince, all of it. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was tired. They fooled everyone, Mom. I was their easiest target, she said, voice breaking. I wanted to believe in a perfect family so badly I ignored what was right in front of me. Our therapist later told her it wasn't blindness. It was manipulation. Abusers make you question your own eyes until the truth feels like betrayal. In our family sessions, Diane cried until she couldn't speak. Caleb sat beside her, holding her hand, and for the first time in years, she didn't pull away. When the counselor said I'd acted like the parent, Diane started sobbing again. That should have been me, she said, protecting them, not her. The counselor smiled gently. Maybe not then, but you can protect them now. Diane nodded, slowly, like someone relearning how to promise. Weeks passed. The reporters moved on. The world found a new scandal. For us, life became smaller, but safer. 8 months after the trial, we packed what little we owned into the back of a borrowed van and left the town that had nearly buried us. No cameras, no reporters, no neighbors pretending they'd always believed us. Just a quiet road and the hum of freedom under the tires. The air in our new town smelled different, cleaner, lighter, like rain before sunrise. The house was small, but it was ours. Beige walls, creaky stairs, windows that locked properly. Caleb picked the bedroom with the biggest window. I took the one at the end of the hall so I could hear the wind move through the trees at night. Diane found work with a nonprofit for domestic violence survivors. She said it felt like penance, but I think it was healing. She started each morning with a notebook and a cup of black coffee, writing letters to women she'd never met, words she wished someone had written to her years ago. Caleb started therapy twice a week. His counselor said he was brilliant but cautious. Like a boy who'd learned too early that trust was currency, he made friends slowly. At night, he still checked the locks and kept a nightlight glowing soft blue by his bed. Sometimes, when the wind rattled the windows, he'd call softly, "Arden?" just to make sure I was there, and I always was. As for me, I applied to college that fall. My major, criminal justice with a focus on victim advocacy. I wanted to become the kind of officer who would have believed me the first time, the kind who would have seen the bruises for what they were. On my 18th birthday, I got a call from Detective Rodriguez. Her voice came through the line, warm and steady. "Happy birthday, Arden." I smiled, sitting by the window. The evening light painted the room gold. "Thanks, Detective." "Rodriguez," she corrected gently. "No more detectives between us. How are you adjusting to the new life?" "It's quiet," I said, glancing toward Caleb's room, where faint laughter drifted from a video game. "Sometimes I forget what that feels like." She chuckled softly. "Quiet is good. It means you're safe." "Yeah," I said, and meant it. "Caleb's teaching his friends how to use recording apps on their phones. Says everyone should know how to protect themselves." "Smart kid," she said. "Takes after his sister." We were silent for a moment. I heard the faint scribble of her pen, the sound I'd once feared. "Arden," she said finally, "what you did, it wasn't just brave, it was right. Don't ever forget the difference." After we hung up, I sat in my new room for a long time, listening to the quiet hum of safety, the kind of silence that didn't need watching. On my desk sat a laptop, the same one I'd used to research everything that started this story. For years, clearing my browser history had been as routine as breathing. Delete, refresh, pretend nothing happened. That night I didn't clear it. I left every search, every page, every trace exactly where it was. Because hiding was over. Because survival wasn't shame. Because truth deserved to live somewhere permanent. In the room down the hall, Caleb laughed again. Free, unguarded, alive. And for the first time in years, I didn't flinch at the sound. We didn't need to hide anymore. We were finally, truly free.